The ripples of Columbine can still be felt today with the modern school shootings because a lot of the school shooters idolized and worshipped Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold. And I'm going to be diving into why today. Welcome to True Crime Unleashed. I'm going to be getting into some more Columbine today. Columbine shooting on April 20th, 1999 at Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado occurred when two teens went on a shooting spree, killing 13 people and wounding more than 20 others before turning their guns on themselves and committing suicide. Yeah, I can't say that word on YouTube. They unalived themselves. In February 2025, another victim who had been paralyzed from the waist down as a result of the shooting died. Her death from sepsis was classified as a homicide, bringing the total number of killed victims to 14. The Columbine shooting was, at the time, the worst high school shooting in U.S. history and prompted a national debate on gun control and school safety, as well as a major investigation to determine what motivated the gunman Eric Harris, 18, and Dylan Klebold, 17. Subsequent school shootings, including at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, and Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, continue to raise questions about school safety and gun control in the United States. The school shooters at Sandy Hook, at the Parkland, Florida, and Robb Elementary School, they had one thing in common. All three of the shooters idolized Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold. Shooters in a massacre approximately at 11:19 a.m. Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris, dressed in trench coats, began shooting fellow students outside Columbine High School, located in a suburb of South Denver. The pair then moved inside the school, where they gunned down many of their victims in the library. By approximately 11:35 a.m., Klebold and Harris had killed 12 students and a teacher. The teacher was Dave Sanders, and wounded more than 20 other people. Shortly after 12, the two turned the guns on themselves. Investigators later learned Harris and Klebold had arrived in separate cars at Columbine around 11:10 a.m. on the morning of the massacre. The two then walked into the school cafeteria, where they placed two duffel bags, each containing a 20-pound propane bomb set to explode at 11:17. The teens then went back outside to their cars to wait for the bombs to go off. When the bombs failed to detonate, Harris and Klebold began their shooting spree. Well, Columbine wasn't initially set out to be a school shooting. What it was a failed bombing because Eric and Dylan, uh, when they set the propane bombs in the what they called the commons, which is the lunchroom, when the bombs detonated, they were going to pick off the survivors that ran out of uh, the cafeteria. When the bombs didn't go off, they went they went to Plan B, and Plan B was a killing spree inside the school. So if the bomb, either way, it was not a win-win that day for those for those innocent children that died at the hands of Eric and Dylan. But in Eric and Dylan's mind, this failed bombing gave them an opportunity to turn it into one of the biggest massacres in U.S. history. Victims of the Columbine shooting include Cassie Burnell, 17, Stephen Kernow, 14, Corey DePuter, 17, Kelly Fleming, 16, Matthew Kechter, 16, Daniel Mauser, 15, Daniel Rohrbaugh, he was 15, William Dave Sanders, 47. That was the teacher that they killed. Rachel Scott, 17, Isaiah Scholes, 18, John Tomlin, 16, Lauren Townsend, 18, Kyle Velasquez, 16, and Kyle Velasquez, he had Down syndrome, so he didn't know exactly what was going on in the library. Yeah, he didn't know the danger of it. Even when the teacher was yelling for the kids to get under the tables and keep their heads under the tables, uh, Kyle was still sitting there on the computer when Eric and Dylan came in to the library. So he was not aware of the imminent danger he was in when Eric killed him. Anne Marie Hochhalter, at the time she was shot and paralyzed, she was 17 years old, and she passed away February of this year at the age of 43 from sepsis. In the days immediately following the shootings, it was speculated that Harris and Klebold purposely chose athletes, minorities, and Christians as their victims. It was initially initially was reported that one student, Cassie Burnell, was asked by one of the gunmen if she believed in God. When Burnell allegedly said yes, she was shot to death. Her parents later wrote a book uh, titled "She Said Yes," honoring their daughter. And on that note as well, Rachel Scott was a Christian when she was shot and killed by these two. She was 17. She had just got baptized, and she was asked by Eric Harris. She was the first victim outside near the lunchroom. She was asked by Eric, "Do you believe in God?" And her response was, "Yes, you know I do." And Eric pointed the shotgun at her and said, "Go be with him then," and pulled the trigger. That just shows you what type of person Eric Harris was. However, it later was determined the question was not posed to Bernal, but another student who already had been wounded by a gunshot when that victim's replied yes, the shooter walked away, and that was another girl as well that was in the library. For some reason, Eric was asking people if they believed in God, and this one that said yes, he walked away from asked asked another girl, Cassie Bernal, who was under the table, if she believed in God, and then pulled the trigger. He was, and from what the reports I've read, he he had this sick game he was playing that day with the students. He would walk around the tables, slap the tables, pop down, and say "peekaboo," and then shoot them. Subsequent investigations determined Harris and Klebold chose their victims randomly, and the two teens originally had intended to bomb their school, potentially killing hundreds of people in the commons/lunchroom. There was speculation that Harris and Klebold committed the killings because they were members of a group of social outcasts called the Trenchcoat Mafia that was fascinated by goth culture. Well, that right there, John Savage, who was in the Trenchcoat Mafia, and he was one of the survivors that day in the library because Dylan Klebold told him to run, has already stated that Eric and Dylan were not in the Trenchcoat Mafia. They never hung out with the Trenchcoat Mafia. The Trenchcoat Mafia was into playing D&D and comic books, and like John Savage has stated in an interview, some other nerdy stuff. Uh, that's what the Trenchcoat Mafia did. John Savage stated that it was a bunch of nerds who liked playing D&D, who liked comics, and Eric and Dylan were never in the Trenchcoat Mafia. They never even hung out with the Trenchcoat Mafia. It was also speculated that Harris and Klebold had carried out the shootings as retaliation for being bullied. Well, they were kind of bullied. This news clip I'm going to play here in a little while by one of the students that knew them said that they were picked on and they were outcasts. Additionally, violent video games and music were blamed for influencing the killers. However, none of these theories were ever proven. Through journals left behind by Harris and Klebold, the investigators eventually discovered the teens had been planning for a year to bomb the school in an attack similar to the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing. Investigative journalist Dave Cullen, author of the 2009 book Columbine, described Harris as the callously brutal mastermind, while Klebold was a quivering, depressive uh, who journaled obsessively about love and attended the Columbine prom 3 days before opening fire. In the aftermath of the shootings, many Schools across America enacted zero tolerance rules regarding disruptive behavior and threats of violence from students. Columbine High School reopened in the fall of 1999, but the massacre left a scar on the Littleton community. Mark Maines, the man who sold a gun to Harris and bought him 100 rounds of ammunition the day before the murders, was sentenced to 6 years in prison. Another man, Philip Duran, who introduced Harris and Klebold to Maines, also was sentenced to prison time. Good. Some victims and families of people killed or injured uh, filed suit against the school and the police. Most of these suits were later dismissed in court. The list of school shootings in the United States grows larger uh, each year and includes the Virginia Tech shooting in 2007, the Sandy Hook elementary school shooting in 2012, the Robb Elementary shooting in 2022, and the University of Texas shooting in 1966. The Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School shooting in 2018, the Santa Fe High School shooting in 2018, and the Umpqua Community College shooting in 2015, among others. Gun control and disagreements over the interpretation of the Second Amendment continued to be a controversial issue in the United States, where some 45,000 people die from gun related injuries each year. This next part is about the victims, guys. On April 20th, 1999, two high school seniors, Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris, launched an all out assault on Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado. During the middle of the school day, the boys killed 12 students and one teacher before killing themselves. The following list is of the victims that died during the massacre: Casey Bernal, a 17-year-old junior who had dabbled in witchcraft and drugs, had turned her life around 2 years before she was killed. She became active in her church and was restructuring her life. A story circulating that one of the shooters asked if she believed in God before he shot her is apparently incorrect. It actually happened to victim Valine Schnurr, who survived. And he also asked Rachel Scott the same thing. A 14-year-old freshman, Stephen Kernow, loved aviation and dreamed of becoming a Navy pilot. He also loved to play soccer and was an avid fan of the Star Wars movies. Corey DePuter, a 17-year-old who loved the outdoors. Corey was a solid 6 foot tall athlete who loved to fish, camp, golf, and inline skate. He planned to join the Marines upon graduation. Kelly Fleming, a new student at Columbine. Kelly was a quiet 16-year-old who liked to spend time in the library writing short stories and poetry. She aspired to be a writer, and one of her poems was actually published in a poem book in the fall of 2000 in her honor by her parents. Matthew Kechter, a shy, sweet sophomore. Matthew was a football player and a straight A student. Daniel Mauser, a smart but shy 15-year-old sophomore. Daniel had recently joined the debate team and the cross country squad. The reason why Daniel was shot is he was under one of the tables and Eric was coming towards him. He grabbed one of the chairs and shoved it at Eric, hoping to trip him up. Eric grabbed the chair, threw it aside, pointed his rifle, and shot in the face. Daniel in the face. Daniel Rohrbaugh, a 15-year-old freshman, Daniel loved to play hockey and Nintendo with his friends. He often helped his father in his electrical store after school. Daniel was the second victim to be shot outside. He was with his friend Lance Kirkland. William Dave Sanders, a longtime teacher at Columbine. Dave coached girls basketball and softball and taught business and computer classes. He was 47 when he died and had two daughters and five grandchildren. He was shot in the shoulders by Dylan trying to flee. A 17 Rachel Scott, a 17-year-old who loved acting and plays. Rachel uh, could play the piano by ear and had a strong belief in Christianity. Eric shot her, wounded her, approached, asked if she believed in God. She said, "I know, you know I do." He then said, "Go be with him," raised his shotgun and pulled the trigger. Isaiah Scholes, an 18-year-old senior, Isaiah had overcome heart problems, two heart surgeries to become a football player and a wrestler. He was shot in the face by Eric Harris after Dylan grabbed his leg and pulled him out from under the table. John Tomlin. John was a 16-year-old with a good heart and a love for Chevy trucks. A year before he was killed, John traveled to Juarez, Mexico to help build houses for the poor. John was John was shot by Eric when he popped his head up trying to help another student who had already been shot. Lauren Townsend, an 18-year-old senior, Lauren loved Shakespeare, volleyball, and animals. Eric played a sick game with her, slapped the table, said peekaboo, and then shot her in the face. Kyle Velasquez, a 16-year-old sophomore. Kyle had only been a student at Columbine for 3 months. His family remembers him as a gentle giant, and he was a big fan of the Denver Broncos. It's good to get the names of the victims out because they were killed too soon. Their ages 15, 16, 17, 18. They were they were taken too soon by two people that took the coward way out. Eric Harris, final anatomic diagnosis. Extensive laceration of the scalp and soft tissues of the face, massive fracturing of the skull, evacuation of the brain, cerebral cortex and brainstem, extensive fracturing to the facial bones. The autopsy findings in this case reveal the causes of death is due to massive head injury secondary to a high energy gunshot wound involving the roof of the mouth, consistent with a shotgun. This wound is consistent with self infliction. Dylan Klebold, final anatomic diagnosis, through and through close contact, large caliber gunshot wound involving the left side of the head, region of the left temple, associated with brain injuries, laceration, and contusions, skull fracture, subdural hemorrhage, aspiration, blood, lower airway, and lungs. He shot himself in the head and then he drowned in his own blood. A coward's way out. I hope you guys have a good night. This is True Crime Unleashed, and I'm out. And let's keep these. I know it was 1999, guys, but let's keep the family of these innocent victims in our prayers, as well as let's keep the family of the victims of the Idaho Poor in our prayers too. Peace.